There we go. Giddy up. Welcome, Hoops fans, to another episode of the Pick and Pie podcast presented by TalkBasket. I am one of your hosts, Jonathan Macri, joined by my co-host, Mr. Taylor. Adam, what's up?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. You like the quarantine hair where there's no barbers anywhere, so it just grows however it wants, and you have to live with it. So I'm looking like at least I've got hair.
I like it. I mean, one of the things I don't miss much about being stuck in the house because I'm a fairly antisocial person, but I did miss getting a haircut for a while, and then when they reopened barbers here, I was very happy because I don't like having long hair.
Yeah, and then the hardest part is actually getting into the barbers, right? Like they're open and there's like a million people that need a haircut. So like there's a 3-week waiting list from the day they open.
Well, the nice thing about me is like I live in a somewhat small town, and it wasn't that. I'll just say I didn't have to wait. I got right in, which was good.
I'm jealous, man. I'm jealous.
Anyway, so we are sitting here recording this. It is Wednesday, February 17th. We are, I believe, the NBA trade deadline is 5 weeks from tomorrow. Is that? I think that's accurate, right?
It's about right. Yeah, I mean,
well, I know it's March. It's March 25th. So yeah,
I'll do the weeks. I've got the calendar here.
Yeah,
2,
let's just go with 5 weeks.
5 weeks tomorrow. Great math.
There we go. So a lot of people are doing their all-star stuff this week, but we did ours last week. So we're trying to stay ahead of the curve at all times. That's the deal. So we're doing some trade stuff, but specifically, we're not just doing any trade because anybody could talk trades. We're focusing on a specific type of player that we think might be on the trade market. And Adam, do you want to maybe say what those types of players are?
So they're specific types of players with a very certain skill set. Skill sets. I'm only joking. So it's guys that have stars that are in a situation where it's probably not good for them to fit the timeline, or their team is in need of kind of moving on from them. So when I'm speaking like this, Bradley Beal fits perfectly. Bradley Beal's a star that doesn't fit the Wizards' rebuilding timeline, and it probably makes more sense for him to leave and try and win elsewhere than it does for him to stay in Washington, despite what he's been telling the media. Now, I will say with the trades that I've put together, a few of them have been well thought out, and a few of them I disregarded the idea of how many people can be on a roster, because my mentality behind it is we're talking stars, so you cut and waive who you need to cut and waive to make it happen.
Here's the thing. I actually, for the Knicks Film School newsletter this week, I did a fake trade involving one of these people. And that was exactly what caught me up, the roster limit thing, because it's, we love doing fake trades because they're fun. But I think a lot of the reason they don't happen mid-season involving bigger names that have bigger salaries is for the reason you just said, is because like teams don't want to cut multiple guys that they've invested, months and potentially years in their development. But with some of these guys, that's the only way that I think you would see them move, because I'm just looking at our list now. One player makes about 20 million, and the rest of them are over 25 or 25 or more, I should say. So it's a lot of money. You want to just get right into it? You want to say where do you want to start?
So I want to start with DeMar DeRozan, because I feel like the trade that I've came up with is reasonable.
Okay.
So the trade I've came up with involves the Miami Heat. Simply because the Heat they're struggling offensively a little bit. They could do with a bit more veteran presence alongside Jimmy Butler. So the trade I've gone with is the Heat received DeMar DeRozan and the Spurs receive Andre Iguodala, because Pop doesn't want to have to rebuild this team, along with Myers Leonard to give them an additional center presence if they're not happy with what Jakob Poeltl's putting on the floor.
So the Heat are giving up Iggy, who is a big part of, Heat culture and the whole thing. Yeah. And so here's what I like about it. I like about it that DeMar is an expiring contract, and I feel like Pat Riley always likes to have some flexibility. Um, I mean, the money works. The money definitely works. I Oh man, I just don't know if either team would. Why would San Antonio trade DeRozan just for just basically to get him off their books? What's in it for them for you in your trade?
For me, my outlook on it was that they get Iguodala for 2 years, so it's this year plus next. So it gives them
It's a
some
team
form
option. It's a
team
team
option.
option. Yeah.
So they can either go flexibility or they can, they can tie him down for another year. And it just gives them a little bit more time to bring through some of the younger guys like Keldon Johnson. Um, my mind's gone blank. It is early today. But it gives them time to develop their younger players while still having a solid veteran presence that brings very hard defense every night. I just felt he would fit the Spurs culture as probably a little bit better than what DeRozan does, and it also gives the Heat additional firepower for when they want to make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, if I were the Heat, I would do that in a heartbeat. I can you remind me real quick because I again never get time to do anything. Your trade except because I'm going to go to my trade. The Celtics trade exception. Remind me, do you have that number? What that is off the top of your head?
I think it's 28.5 million, but they can
Right.
only use 19 of it because they're hard capped, so there has to be salary going back out to.
That's what I thought. So my trade is to send DeMar DeRozan to your team, and I know it's always inevitable until either the Knicks or the Celtics come up when we talk, but I think it makes a lot of sense because obviously the Celtics won last night. They are, I believe now they have whatever, I don't know how many wins it is, 11 wins, 12 wins, something, a perfect record when they score at least, I think it's 111 or 112 points, something like that. And the reason they're only one game over 500 is because they don't often score that many points. And I think DeRozan would fit in really well there. The question is, of course, what do you give up? And I think the Spurs are building something where most of the talent is on a different timeline than DeRozan, which is the reason he's included in this exercise. So I think they might be interested in some of the Celtics young players. They have obviously Langford, they have Nesmith, they have Pritchard, they have Robert Williams. Like, I don't know who they'd want, but I think you would send, one of those guys, and then you're telling me that they need to send at least $10 million in salary.
Yeah.
So then that's an interesting question because you're either sending Tristan Thompson or Marcus Smart, and if they send Tristan Thompson, it leaves them a little small. But if you're not trading Robert Williams, you still have Grant Williams, who has played the five. You still have obviously Daniel Tice, who is Tice out right now. I know he's not starting. Or is he?
Yeah, he's got a sprained index finger. He sprained it against the Wizards, came back in and played, but then missed yesterday's game against Denver.
Yeah, so I think that like just insert Tice into the starting lineup. You have Time Lord to back him up. You slot DeRozan in as the starting four. Smart moves, is back to your 6 man. I actually really like that. I don't think the Celtics would do it. And I'm not even sure that the Spurs would do it because the Spurs, we should say, are actually like it's tough to talk about guys who are not on a team's timeline when that team is winning. And the Spurs are 16-11 right now. So
yeah, the reason I don't think the Celtics would do it is simply because they've been burnt by so many expiring deals that it's risky to use the TPE, which is literally your last one big roll of the dice to get a guy who you can have for a few years and then use that on someone like DeRozan. If he walks in the offseason, then you essentially held on to you put in all the work to get this enormous TPE for a 4-month project.
So maybe that's a good transition to, I don't know if you wanted to save Beal for last, but maybe that's a good transition to Bradley Beal because Bradley Beal, 28.7 million. He's the only guy that I could imagine that they would put into that trade, use that trade exception on. where they would feel it would be worth it. I'm not sure I see the other player out there that they need, that they, not that they wouldn't be able to trade for another player with multiple years on his deal, but that they would need the trade exception for. Because if you're telling me that they want, I don't know, I'm just making up a name, like Lauri Markkanen or something. Let's say the Bulls put him out there and they wanted his restricted rights. They don't need the trade exception to make that deal. They could figure out something else.
The number one name floating around at the moment, and my Bradley Beal trade is so wild and ludicrous that it's going to be hilarious.
Okay.
The number one name floating around for Boston at the moment seems to be Harrison Barnes. That makes a lot of sense because he's happy to play as a fourth option. He's a 3-and-D type wing. Whether that happens is one thing or another. Now, do you want to do your Beal trade first? Because mine is, and I'm going to preface it, mine is outlandish. Like, absolutely insane.
Okay.
But, I had fun with it, so I thought I'd include it.
No, listen. I'm all for fun. So, in the spirit of this, should I do a batshit crazy Beal trade, or should I do the Beal trade?
No, do the one you've put down. Do the one you think that's working. Mine's just because it's the one I had the most fun doing, and it's going to create a lot of conversation between myself and you once I've put this out there.
Oh my god! Now I'm actually frightened of what the Beal trade is that you came up with.
Okay, it involves 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players.
I thought you were about to say teams, 4, 5, in which I was about to
7, and 7 draft picks.
Okay. My Beal trade is pretty easy. I think it's to New Orleans because I think that's where he makes the most sense. I think it's for Bledsoe and Ball. And I think they would want another young player. So I think you'd probably have to send, well, I guess it wouldn't be so let me I'm going to take that back. Not Ball. It would be Bledsoe and Redick with Kyra Lewis, because then you're basically deciding, all right, we're going to invest in Lonzo Ball. And I'm not sure Washington wants to pay Lonzo Ball. I think they'd probably rather have Lewis because he's cheap for a while. So you have to, like, Washington has to deal with Bledsoe's contract, which, like, whatever. I take it or leave it. Someone asked me on Twitter yesterday if I would want to take on Bledsoe's contract if I were the Knicks, and I was like, I don't know. So it would be Bledsoe, it would be Redick, it would be Kyrie Lewis, and then, you know, I think you would have to, because the picks are going to be a combination of Lakers picks and the Pelicans' own picks. And I didn't go so far as to figure out like what the package is. I think it would be a lot of them, but I do think the key would be, because you're looking at New Orleans' record right now, they're 12-15, and you look at the other teams in the West. I think there's a good chance the Pelicans end up in the top with like a top 10 or 11. Like, even if they get Beal, which is why I think the timing of this trade would matter a lot, because I think part of the incentive for the trade for the Wizards would be getting a pick that is good this year. So I think the Wizards, if they held off for long enough and the Pelicans like fell far enough out of it where they basically, you were not guaranteeing yourself a lottery pick, but you had a pretty good shot at a lottery pick. And even then, I think the Pelicans would want to have some protections, which is why, like, I don't know, if you're Washington, like, are you comfortable allowing them to have protections? I'm not sure, but I think it would be this year's pick, you know, a couple other Pelicans picks, a couple Lakers picks, maybe a swap or two. That's my trade.
The only thing that I'd push back on there a little bit would just be how many guards that the Washington Wizards are left with then, because that would be Russell Westbrook, Eric Bledsoe.
Do they care?
No, they don't care.
That's the thing, is like they would be entering
rebuild
like
mode.
A complete rebuild.
Yeah.
And then I think you'd start to have some really interesting, like, Russell Westbrook buyout conversations, which I would say are absurd given how much money he has left on his contract. Not this year, but like next year.
Yeah.
But like we're having Blake Griffin buyout conversations, so why not just go all the way and have
Let's
Russell
go
Westbrook
crazy. Let's go crazy. And talking of crazy.
Okay, let's give it to me. Here we go.
I want to give you a crazy discussion. So again, this is for Beal to end up on the Heat. I've been really interested in the Heat the last few weeks. I had to rope in a third team with cap space to make it work. That third team is New York.
I was about to say there's only one team out there, so
So the deal is, and I'll run through it again. It's outlandish,
Okay.
just because I had fun. So the Miami Heat received Taj Gibson and Bradley Beal. I don't think
already Tom Thibodeau is not going to sign off on this, but keep going.
Tom Thibodeau has no choice. The Knicks received Troy Brown Jr., Moritz Wagner, Kendrick Nunn, Chris Silva, and 4 future seconds.
So they're receiving 4 players?
Yeah, this is what I said.
Give me the players again.
Troy Brown Jr.
Okay.
Moritz Wagner, that could play backup center.
I know.
Kendrick Nunn.
And
And Chris Silva, who's trash. The Wizards received Kelly Olynyk, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Precious Achua.
Give me those 4 one more time. Sorry. Tyler Hero.
Yeah, Precious Achua.
Okay.
Duncan Robinson.
Wow.
And Kelly Olynyk, along with 3 future first-round picks.
3 future first-round picks. So the return for Beal for you is Hero, and the problem with the first is the Heat can't. I don't think the Heat could trade 3 firsts.
So I've done it 27, 25, 22. So I've skipped a year on each.
I don't think they could trade 22 though.
Oh, it went through. Because they own this year's pick, don't they? They've got.
Well, the trade machine is funny with picks. Hold on, I'll get to the bottom of this, but let's just actually. I don't think you'd need all 3 picks to be. And I know
just being very nice.
What's that?
I was just being very friendly. Picks, just giving them out.
I don't think it's necessary because I think Tyler Hero is, considering that there was some talk about, like, we might not want to give up. I don't know if anybody reported that the Heat did this, but there was some, like, scuttlebutt that, like, maybe the Heat wouldn't want to give up Tyler Hero for James Harden. And, that's James Harden. And this is Bradley Beal. Now, Bradley Beal will re-sign in Miami, so I do think it's a little bit of a different animal. Although Harden, you were getting him for 2 years. Whatever. Like, I think the fact that Hero would be part of the deal, it would be significant.
Yeah.
So they can't trade the 2022 pick because they've already traded away the 2023 pick.
I didn't even check.
So here's the thing. You could trade away 25 and 27, which they would do. And you could also trade away swap rights in 24 and 26. So 2 firsts, 2 swaps, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Precious. That would get it done. That would get it.
What about for New York?
New York says no.
Because of Taj Gibson.
No, New York says no because
you have to waive guys.
So Brown is like mildly interesting. Nunn is interesting. Nunn's had a really good year. But at the same time, Nunn is a restricted. I believe he's restricted. He's restricted. So that's kind of a gift and a curse for New York. It's like you're getting a guy who you have his rights on by the same token, you have to pay him this summer.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure Nunn is the guy that they are going to want to pay. And then Wagner, it's like I don't know if that'd be it. And Silva's just like a guy. But I don't know that the Knicks want to cut, because if you're looking at this,
you have to cut people.
Well, with Taj going out, who. Can they trade Taj so soon after they sign him? I think they can. You'd have to cut 3 guys. So let's just say, for argument's sake, they cut Iggy Brazdeikis. Then you're cutting rotation play. Unless are they going to cut like Frank Ntilikina? I don't think so.
This is, like I said, it was. I did say it was outlandish to preface.
But listen, I think there's a way to get a 4-team involved. Like, I don't think they'd want to just cut Reggie Bullock. I don't think they want to just cut Frank Ntilikina.
But moving him on.
If you found other teams to send those guys to that have, because there are actually a number of teams in the league that have open roster spots right now. So if you sent those guys to other teams and then got picks back, what I think would be the case would be, I think you'd be getting like 2nd-round picks for those guys in those separate transactions. And then I think New York would want one of those firsts in this trade.
Would be fair for facilitating that. Would be fair.
Yeah,
I think the Wizards and the Heat both come off really well here. New York would just kind of like, I needed a team that made it work.
If New York could get some stuff for the players that they would otherwise have to cut, and if they got a future first, I think they would. I think they would probably do it. I think they'd probably do it. That's interesting. I like that. Okay, so we're two down, 4 to go.
I want to stay on the New York topic for one more trade.
Go for it.
We had Kemba Walker listed as one of these guys that doesn't fit the timeline too much. And I know you guys have just signed Derrick Rose, but you know you've got cap space. So at the request of somebody who I'm going to put here, that we can see the comment. The trade was Kemba Walker, a 25th and 22nd top 3 protected first round pick in return for Julius Randle. No one says yes, but it was
how many drugs are going back to New York that you'd have to have Leon Rose take?
I'm just saying,
right?
I'm just saying that.
It's Kemba Walker and a first and a top two
firsts. I'd even be willing to throw you one of the young pieces too. So you could take a pick. Any of the young guys.
God, let me look at that contract again. I don't
think it's a lot of money, dude.
I don't think here's the thing. I don't think I know it is. It's 34 and a half this year, 36 next year, 37 the year after that. So essentially for the Knicks, you are punting more or less you're punting max cap space in the next 2 years, and you're not that they necessarily need it, but what I think the Knicks do like is I think they like their flexibility, and I think they like their ability to make trades to take in guys from other teams, but I think they're looking to use that space to take in a guy that is more again on their timeline.
Yeah, Kemba would literally be swapping one team he doesn't fit timelines on for another.
I'll say this. I don't think it's insane. It's not insane. And you know, but if they were going to trade Julius Randle, I think they would want to trade him to get at least one piece back, whether it's a really good first or a first that could potentially be really good, or a young player that there was a no doubt about it. All due respect to Peyton Pritchard and Romeo Langford or whatever else. I don't think that's going to get it done.
I will say that with the comment that's on the screen, there is no chance Brian or Tatum come back for Julius Randle at all. Zero chance whatsoever. I understand.
Oh, no, of course not.
I appreciate the candor. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, as much as I want Julius Randle, I would hang up the phone. But if I could interest you in a Carson Edwards, then we can definitely have a conversation.
Well, I'll say this, though. No, they wouldn't do it.
What, for no one will trade for Carson Edwards.
No, I'm not saying that. Marcus Smart for Randle also works money-wise because the Knicks have extra
room.
Oh wait, no. Sorry, it doesn't work money-wise because the Randle makes more. So my apologies. It would have to be Smart and Tice.
Yeah. Or the Celtics would have to use part of the TP.
Well, I don't think you could.
You can split the TP up.
Oh, wait, no. Then they can do it. They could just inherit. Then they can inherit Randle into the traded player exception.
Yeah, and then they'd just have 28.5. Say he's on 19. So you just take 19 off that 28.5.
Yeah. So I think. But again, if you're New York, do you trade Julius Randle for Marcus Smart and 2 protected picks?
If this was last season, the answer was yes, unequivocally yes.
It's insane that I'm saying no. I don't think they do it, but I don't think they do it. I really don't. He's been that good. I mean, the guy.
Where's your move for Kemba? Who have you got down? Where's your trade idea?
Here's the thing. I'm not sure how tradable Kemba Walker is.
Not very at all.
And I feel bad saying that. What?
He's improving. I mean, he's showing signs of getting back to where he was, but those knee issues, mate, and that contract and that age and the miles on the clock that really all goes against him in terms of trade value.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And when you're talking about the money, I just like, oof, boy. So, like, just looking around the like, look, I admire you for trying to get him to New York because I think New York is probably the only team on the board who you're looking at and you're like, I could maybe see them talking themselves into it. I don't think they would.
It was the only option I had.
So can I cheat?
Yeah, I cheated with the Bradley Beal trade and just forgot roster restrictions existed.
So
Purposely.
here's how I'm cheating. Why not try to trade Walker for Beal?
Now that did cross my mind.
So
I just think that the
obviously
Celtics just don't have the draft capital.
Well, I was about to, but literally every pick. So it's 4 firsts and 3 swaps. So 4 firsts, 3 swaps. Kemba, you're taking on Beal. You're gonna take on, and let's give you guys Robin Lopez also, and then you're sending out Kemba Walker and whichever of the young players that Washington wants. I don't think the Wizards would do that. I think they would need a stud. And it also creates a situation where you now have Kemba Walker and Russell Westbrook on the same team. But again, here's the reason I say it. If you're the Wizards and you just want the most picks, I don't think any other team is going to give you 4 firsts and 3 swaps for Beal.
No, but at the same time, those picks are going to be far less valuable than some of the other picks other teams can offer in terms of where they're going to finish in the draft.
The only other possibility, and again, I'm not sure they do it because the guy's been an all-star this year. Well, I should say he's been an all-star this year. He's in the all-star conversation this year because he's been really good. Is Tobias Harris for Philly. So Tobias, like, again, and I think Tobias Harris, do you put him in a Beal trade and give up all the picks? If you're Boston, do you trade Kemba to Philly? But then that's so weird because then who's the one at, like, probably Philly's like, all right, what picks are you giving us? But then are you like, in Philly's mind, are they getting, they're like, why would they want to get worse and in their mind potentially make an opponent better? But do they think they're making the opponent better, or do they think, like, that? Talk about a crazy, like, that's the other one that I thought of, but that's it. That's the only ones I can think of.
They're tough, right? I mean, Kemba's one of the harder guys that I thought of trading.
I don't think he's tradable. I don't think he's movable.
Another one that was tough just because of fit and where they go and how it works is the final one I've got. And this one, again, is not one I'm very happy with, but I really drew a blank on teams that not only would need him, but teams that have the draft capital and the trade stock to be able to make a run for him in Zach LaVine.
Okay.
Now, I was struggling here real hard. So I looked around the league and I was like, who would work in a like-for-like swap that would then give the Bulls an option to either re-sign or get off that contract at the end of the season? Okay. So they to give themselves some flexibility and be able to be a little bit more of a player in any trade discussions in the summer or early next season. The only name I could come up with, and I stuttered quite heavily then, would be Victor Oladipo. So it'd be
wow. Oh, so you're flipping Depot for LaVine.
For LaVine. And then the Bulls get 2 first-round draft picks, 21 and 23, for taking on that Depot and risking losing him. That gives the Rockets John Wall, Zach LaVine, and Christian Wood once he's healthy as a core 3 to build around. And it gives the Bulls some flexibility moving into the summer.
I don't know that the Bulls would value flexibility that much.
That's the problem I had. But it was also that when I looked at it, it was like with what's happening with Markkanen's contract and how much do you value Markkanen? If he's going to walk, do you want to be able to have enough flexibility to make a bit of a splash and try and bring guys in off the free agent market?
That's interesting. It's interesting. I don't think they. I don't. Who's Here's the thing: the picks that you're sending are presumable because the Rockets don't even have control of their pick this
So
year.
one's a Brooklyn swap and one's a Portland pick. So 2021 Portland's pick, 2023 Brooklyn's, which is a good year to have Brooklyn's picks,
Well,
depending on who stays and
that's
who
it.
goes.
Like the Bulls would really have to value whatever the picks were,
Yeah,
and I'm not sure. I'm not sure they value it enough to again trade Levine away for like they're not even getting a young player. They're getting a guy who almost certainly is going to walk. I don't think Oladipo's going to would stay in
yeah, it wouldn't
Chicago,
stay in
and I'm not
Chicago.
sure that like I'm not sure why would Chicago want Oladipo. Yeah, I don't know. That's a little bit of a funky. Like I think Levine's eminently tradable.
Yeah, I think Levine as well is one of the most underrated stars in the league. The only problem I had was finding a team where I thought his fit worked in terms of now and moving forward,
Well,
and teams with draft capital. Plus, I kind of went a bit too far into my own head in
no,
trade talks with
listen,
fake GMs.
I love it. The trade, the trade. To me, there's a few semi-obvious ones. I think you always look at Sacramento and like so. Sacramento right now is first of all they're the team that tried to sign Levine to the offer sheet to begin with. Um, right now they are 12-15. Um, they were at 500. Were they even a game over 500 at one point? Yeah, I guess they were a game over 500 because they're 12-15 and they've lost 4 in a row. They were fun, spunky. Halliburton's still playing well. But couldn't you see them maybe being like, let's try to get another piece? Now, if they obviously they're not trading Fox or Halliburton. If they traded for Levine, would they want to keep Healed? Because then you're in a situation where you can't close games with all 4 of Halliburton, Healed, Fox, and Levine. So because if that was okay, you could trade Bagley and Corey Joseph and like a this year's first, like top 4 protected. Like that's a fair return, I think, for Levine. But I have a feeling they would try to trade Healed in that deal. And if you're Chicago and you're taking on Healed, like you're probably looking at that contract as a negative asset, even though it is declining. And what are you asking for? Are you asking for Healed and like 2 firsts? Probably, right?
I mean, do you value Hill that highly though? I mean, he weren't even closing games with the
Well,
Kings.
but that's the thing is I think if you're Chicago, getting Healed gives you some certainty, right? Like they're an organization who I could see. But then again, maybe they go the other way and they're like, "Hey, let's add to Levine. Let's try to trade for Beal. Let's try to trade to whoever, and let's get ourselves on the NBA map again." I don't know. So that's
I mean, that seems likely as well, right? Like they'd want to build around their best player rather than because Levine is probably the outlier on this list that we've done, where his age doesn't make him too much of a
yeah, I know.
star that doesn't fit the timeline.
Yeah, I think the asterisk with Levine as opposed to all these other guys who we've talked about is like if the Bulls decided they wanted to go into the tank, where would they send Levine?
Yeah.
And I think there would also be a little bit of Levine probably asking them like, all right, I'm like trade me. Just saying. This is where I will give you my I'll give you my fake Knicks. I'll give you my Knicks trade. It would be I wrote this the other day. I think it would come down to what young player it would be. I think if the Knicks could get away with sending out Knox as the best young player in the deal, which I'm not sure. I don't think the Bulls would say yes to that. But Knox, the better of the Knicks pick and Dallas's pick this year because they have both, but top 4 protected. Plus the 2023 Dallas pick, which is top 10 protected. It never is not top 10 protected. And it goes over a couple times if it hits in the top 10. Plus another draft asset. So the Bulls would be getting 3 total draft assets. I don't know what I want to make that last draft asset. I also realize the money doesn't work perfectly. The Knicks have $15 million in cap space. Knox is at 4.5, and Levine is at. Oh, actually, maybe it does work. Hold on, let me. What's Levine? Levine is at 19.5. Yeah, so that would actually work. The Knicks have just enough cap space to make that work. Knox for Levine straight up works. That's my trade. I don't know. I think the Knicks would do it in a heartbeat. I don't think the Bulls would do it.
I personally don't see the Bulls wanting to move on from Levine, but I also see a world where Levine wants to move from Chicago. I think if the
Bulls that's the thing.
Yeah, if the Bulls move Levine, it's because Levine wants out, not because they want to move him.
And for them to make this sort of trade, they would basically need to be saying the thing that we want most for Levine is the best possible pick we could get in this year's draft. And I think there's a chance because the Knicks own 2 picks. It's but here's the thing: if you're Chicago, I don't think you make this trade now. I think you wait until right up until the deadline, get a sense of like where the Knicks are going to finish in the lottery, or if the Knicks are going to finish in the lottery. At this rate, they might not. Whether the Mavs are going to finish, because like, what if you traded Levine and like the best pick you got back was the 15th pick in the draft, or the 14th pick in the draft? Like, I think you would probably feel shortchanged if you're the Bulls in that scenario.
The place would burn down. They've just got over the Jim Boylan area. You don't want to go and give like this is.
But you're also getting other draft assets. I mean, I don't know. Push comes to shove, I think the Knicks would probably give up a better young player. I don't know who. Oh, I guess it would be Obi Toppin, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't think the Knicks would do that. Actually, I think they like Obi Toppin. All right, let me get one more on here. Vooch, the only one I came up with for Nick Vucevic is to send him to you guys into the trade exception, and then you guys send whatever picks.
That's exactly what I had. I had Tristan Thompson and Neesmith going towards Orlando.
Yeah, I don't like looking around the league. Where's the team that can fit that salary? Unless you want to get crazy and you want to. This is a little nuts. Unless you want to get crazy, because I know LaMarcus Aldridge has not been playing well this year. You'd basically just do an Aldridge for Vooch swap with the Spurs sending a pick to Orlando, and that
sounds like such a Spurs trade as well. That's the type of deals the Spurs would make.
I mean, shit. You want to talk about a guy who would fit with perfectly. The team? Like, yeah, that's a Spurs trade, all right. Again, but I don't know if you're San Antonio, you're probably asking for one of the Spurs young players, and I don't know who that would be. But that's the only other Vucevic destination to me that makes even a little bit of sense, both from a roster perspective and from a money perspective. It's Boston and San Antonio. I think they should try to trade Vooch. Like, yeah, the tank is right there in front of you. He's going to win you a few extra games the rest of this year. There's only 2 more years left on the contract. Yeah,
I think Vooch would be good for Boston. I think he'd be better for San Antonio. I love watching the Spurs, man.
Rare is the trade where just as an NBA fan, I'm like, man, I want that to happen because I want to see that dude on that team. That's one of them. I would want to see that trade happen.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic.
Before we go, can I give you my crazy? Oh wait, you actually, I think you read the newsletter yesterday, so you probably saw this. My crazy Drummond trade to send him to Toronto. It would be a 3-way deal with the Knicks, where, hold on, I'm gonna pull it up. So Toronto gets Andre Drummond and Iggy Brasdeikis from the Knicks for roster purposes. The Knicks get Norm Powell and Aaron Baines. And then Cleveland gets Frank Ntilikina, Stanley Johnson, Patrick McCaw, again, for roster purposes. And then they would get a second-round pick from New York, which New York has several extra second-rounders over the next several years. Well, actually, now they only have one this year. They have the Pistons pick. I do not think they would give up the Pistons pick in this trade because I think they like that pick. But one of their 2023 second-round picks. And Frank, I think they'd be happy to do those 2 things to get their hands on Norm Powell, who is expiring but is also really good. I don't think Toronto would do this. The only reason I mention it is because Shams reported that they were a team that was involved in Drummond trade discussions this week. So and they're not trading any of their top 4 guys. So yeah.
And Drummond to me is just one of the most divisive players.
He's incredibly divisive. Yeah.
Yeah. People either love him or loathe him. Because obviously he represents everything the NBA used to be compared to everything the NBA is now. And I just don't know how Nick Nurse would use him in that system that he runs. Obviously, they'd have to alter the way they play.
I think the guy, like he was 2 weeks ago, he was legitimately in my personal all-star conversation 2-3 weeks ago, because I like the numbers are there. Maybe not the advanced numbers and like the on-off as much, but like he was coming in and just wrecking games when he wanted to. But he needs to commit to playing the right way, which for him means less is more. Like the thing that astounds me about Drummond, how in God's name are you that big and like that good around the rim on like alley-oops and lobs and shit, and yet you have a field goal percentage under 50? How do you make less than half of your field goals? Because you do all kinds of nonsense that has no business on the basketball court. So, I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to wind up being bought out, because I think the only team with any cap space again is the Knicks, and like I think the Knicks would go to, at this point, might go to Cleveland and be like, we'll do you the favor by saving you buyout money. So like, what are you giving to us to take on? Like, maybe not that, but like the Knicks don't give up.
Conversation, yeah, which makes the most sense.
Yeah, and I understand Mitchell Robinson's out for a while, but all of a sudden the Knicks just had one of their games postponed with the Spurs. They only have 7 games left until the All-Star break. So, like, they don't have to weather the storm for that much longer. Noel has played well. Taj Gibson's played well. So, I don't think they would be desperate for Joe. But all right, I think we did this justice. What do you think? I think
we did good. We both me, not you. I had some outlandish ones. I think that it's really hard.
It wasn't outlandish.
Oh, the Beal one was crazy.
No, I didn't think it was that crazy.
It was fun. I'll tell you that much.
It was fun. It was definitely
fun. I'll tell you what, when you're talking trades, it's always really difficult, because there's always going to be, you always favor one team. Even when you're doing a mock trade, you always tend to favor one team over the other, just naturally because of the players they've got, and if you think someone fits really well. But it was a super fun exercise, man. I had a great time putting them together.
Let me ask you this before we get out of here. What would you give better or worse than 50% odds that one of the 6 players that we just mentioned gets traded before this deadline?
Yeah, I'd say 70% likely.
Really? Yeah, see, I put it under 50% because I don't think there's any chance that Kemba moves. I really don't think Drummond will get. I don't think there's any chance that Rosen gets moved. I think it's very low that Vooch. I think low that Drummond because of the money. So basically, I think
Vooch is the one that makes me think it's likely.
I don't think they're going to move him. I think Orlando is like, I think they have a different mentality down there. I think they're like, we got to keep getting fans in the seats, and like they think he helps them do that. Yeah, that's I put it under 50%, but not much under 50%.
I've got it at 7, just because I've got a feeling that Vooch is the most attainable, specifically for Boston, and Boston are really going to want to. Oh, you got a question on the screen?
Oh, I can't see it. Have you calmed down about the O'Connor media disrespect?
That was hilarious, by the way.
I didn't name any names. I'm just going to say that. I didn't name any names.
He did not call a single person out. I watched that video twice, chuckling very heavily.
Yeah.
You did not? Have you calmed down, though?
Have I calmed down? I'm going to wait until after the All-Star.
That's a no, then. That's a no.
Anyway, all right, everybody. Anything else before we get out of here?
Nah, just subscribe. As you can see, we're live tweeting now, so we're on. If we're on Twitter, just hit that retweet button. Obviously, everybody doesn't want to listen to the show; they might want to watch it. They won't want to see me and John laughing at each other, or our eyes glazing over for brief moments of time. So hit that retweet button. If you do prefer to download them, hit that subscribe, and we'll be back again Sunday because we're late this week.
Yes, we will be back on Sunday. barring anything unforeseen. And yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll be back with you very soon.
Adios. Adios.